Right. Okay. So first we'll see what we did in the manual process actually, right? So first we went with something called like GitHub, right? I mean, like we'll see how the particular process begins. Like we got your developers, right? You got different set of developers who are pushing their codes into GitHub, right? So this is generally your developers work, right? Your developers are going to do this. Now once this is done, what is the next task? It comes to the operations, right? We got ops here. So what they have? They have a build and release management system set up for this particular things, right? So in your build, what you are going to do? So you are going to clone this particular project from your GitHub, isn't it? From GitHub, you are getting it here. So you will clone from GitHub, right? Then you get all your project data here, right? Let's say your sources, pom.xml, everything is going to be updated here. So what's the next thing we did? We are going to do some specific process here, isn't it? So we did something like compilation, then we have run your test cases, right? Then apart from this, let's say we have deployed to Nexus, right? Then what we did, we even like deployed it to Tomcat, right? I mean, like different environments, right? Then what we did, then we did something like code analysis, right? We did code analysis as well. So this was the process till which we saw everything in manual way, right? So everything we use something like a Maven tool, which is my build tool. Then I completed all this particular process in my particular thing. Now what happened, like I told you, for if say whenever developer pushes again a new code into your GitHub, again you are going to do the everything from scratch again, isn't it? Now you are again to clone it, again you are going to build it, again you are going to test it, again you are going to deploy that into Tomcat, again you are going to do the code analysis as well. So this is like a ever repeating process again and again. Now I told you, like generally if you see, let's say, so we are using something like Jenkins, right? So Jenkins is your continuous integration actually. Now if you see what says continuous integration actually. It says continuous integration is a development process that requires developers to integrate code what into a shared repository. So what is my shared repository here? GitHub, right? Several times a day, because that might happen. Like maybe the changes might be like 3 or 4 changes daily, or if not only one change daily, we are not sure. Maybe 20 changes daily, right? So based upon that change, we are going to continuously integrate. Now it says each check-in is then verified by an automated build. Each check-in in the sense each change in my shared repository, I mean like my GitHub, whenever there is a change occurring. So what is the next thing I'm doing? Again, if I go for manual process, I'll say git clone again, I'll say nvn clean, compile, package and everything. But I don't want to do that every time, right? So this is what I want to I mean like achieve. Whenever there is a check-in, then it should be verified by an automated build, allowing the teams to detect the problems as early as possible. That's the main scenario why we are going for Jenkins. The only thing I want is because I don't want, I mean, like, let's say, like I told you, right? After completing some particular process, again, I don't want to go back. Again, I don't want to say, like, undo that particular change, come back again, and do the process back. So instead of that, whenever there is a problem, fix that as soon as possible at that point of time itself, right? So when you're going to get the problem generally whenever you're integrating it into the source code, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, all my particular build team is going to get the code from my GitHub shared repository. So if I trying to do something like, I have given you that example, right? Developer A, developer B, developer C. So maybe like I'll just repeat that so that it will be clear. Okay. Let's say this is your developer A, right? This is your developer B, and this is your developer C. Now I told you like I'm having my shared repository, right? So where is my builder team? Here is my builder team, right? So what we are doing every time? So let's say for time being, just imagine that this person is using Java 1.8, 1.8, and 1.6, right? Now developer A puts the code of 1.8. What is the machine configured in my build? It's my 1.8, right? What do you need? We clone this code here. And he ran all our pre-checks, like compiling, testing, and everything he ran. There was no build fail. Good enough. Then developer B pushed the changes. Right? Good enough. Whenever developer C pushed, what we do? We again close the particular project and I'm running all the failures and I got an error. Right? My build got failed. But whereas what happened? Developer D came again, he pushed new code. Developer E came again, he pushed new code. But whereas this particular phase is here itself. Whenever the changes from other developers, it's not possible. Now, whenever I want to fix this back again, I'm going to each and every developer. I'm saying that this is a problem. You need to fix it up, right? Which is a huge time-taking process again. So, to avoid all these mishaps, that's the reason why we are going with the continuous integration. So, if you set up continuous integration process, right, it's going to do by itself. I mean, like if there is any particular problem it is occurring, it will straight away go and notify the users then and there itself, so that you are not going ahead and fixing the problems back. You will fix the problems at that point of time itself. That is what generally continuous integration is all about.
It goes to the particular developer or
No, you can configure as you want. Let's say you got your project manager here. Let's say you got your technical architect. So you can go and send email to anyone you want. You got a recipients list over there. Whenever the build fails, it will send all the notifications. I mean, like this complete error log to the first definitely you can take
NTL.
So
NTL we can say.
yep. Entire. Let's say you got a specific team and you can send it. But by default, it will send to the developer who changed the code. And apart from that, you can give some list of recipients over there. And it will go and fetch the particular users. Right? That is what generally continuous integration is about. Right? You understand why we are going for this approach. So that's the reason why it says like continuous integration is nothing but whenever the change is there, continuously we are going to attach the changes which are there in my source code to this particular build and release. Right? Just a second. So now if you see, I mean like if you take my particular scenario here, right? So what we are doing, we are continuously doing some task here, right? So Jenkins is the same tool again. Here, all the tasks which are doing here are going to be called like jobs. So building would be one particular job for you. Compiling would be one job. Testing would be one job. Packaging can be one job, right? Deploying it to Nexus can be one job, right? Let's say doing source code analysis, right? SonarQube, that could be one job. Deploying it to Tomcat could be one job. You can configure jobs in such a way that, I mean, like whenever there is a change in your source code, you can trigger other jobs. So you are going to have one master job, which would trigger all your child jobs again. That's what we can achieve with your Jenkins, right? So let's see how we can go and set that. So you understood, right? Basically your continuous integration. So let's see. But I just copy a bit here. Yes. Right. This is what your continuous integration means. Shared repository. So you need to understand what is shared repository and what is the meaning of check-in means. So all these things we have learned in our Git classes, right? You need to have all the understanding of this particular things. And once we have set up this process, then we are going with something called like, I mean like I'm giving like what we are going to do on our upcoming classes, right? So once this is done, then we are going to do something called like building pipelines. Right, this is one thing which we will do in the later task. So building pipeline is nothing but it is a process by which software build is broken down into tiny sections. Right. So what are these sections actually? I told that it is going to be broke down into sections, right? So what are these sections means, right? So you can do something like unit testing, right? Then you can say acceptance tests. So let's say you got your testing team with you, right? They will write your acceptance test cases, right? Then let's say you got something like reporting, right? Then you can do packaging, right? Then you can do deployment, right? And you can do even notification, right? All this particular thing we are going to set up in your build pipelines. Yeah. So basically, how this particular continuous integration is helping us. So how we are building, right? Then deploying, right? And using that particular software, using that application. This is what generally your Jenkins is really helping you out, right? You can take all this. Right? And now let's say whenever I'm talking about these particular scenarios, right? We already implemented by using, I mean, like not all the phases, at least we did something like unit testing, reporting we did, right? Then we did packaging, deployment, right? So we are going to integrate all these things again with the help of Jenkins, right? I mean, like we are going to initiate all these like jobs, different kinds of jobs, right? So let's say how and what are the things which we require when you are working with the Jenkins, right? So again, Jenkins is your Java based application, right? It's completely Java, actually a web based application, you can say, right? It's a completely Java web based application. Whenever you want to run Jenkins, you need to have Java required with you. And let's say what are the other things I'm doing. So I'm bringing the code, right? So from GitHub I'm bringing the code, so my system should have Git as well, right? Then these are like prerequisites. I mean, like first thing would be your Java, right? You need to have both your Java and Java C to be there. You need to have your Git. Then you need to have your GitHub account set up, right? Then you might need something like Maven to be set up in your machine, right? Let's say if you are using something like Nexus, yes, you need to set up Nexus as well, right? Then let's say you are working with something like Sonar Cube analysis, yes, you need to have Sonar. If you need to do the deployment, you need to have something like Tomcat to be set up. So all these tools we have seen individually, like how they are working. Now we need to see how we are going to attach all this together in one single place, right? That's what we are going to achieve it. Now for time being, I'll just give you like sample things like how you can do with all these things, and later when we are, like I told you, that we have on that particular project, in that project I'll show like each and every phase how we are going to do the automation as well, right? So first, whenever you want to set up your Jenkins, right? Let's say, so I mean, like you are going to have, let's say you are going with your something like a web-based application. If it has some database connectivity, you might need something like MySQL also again. It depends upon the application as well. So till now, I did not use any what you said database oriented application, right? Whatever we saw was just sample applications. I mean, like just a web-based application. It's like something like Hello World and this kind of stuff. But let's say if your application is also having something like a database related activity, there are some transactions going on, then you need to include those tools as well required for that particular application. Yep. No. First, we'll see how you are going to understand the Jenkins, like what are jobs, how we are going to trigger the jobs. First, that is done. Then, at the end of the process, I'll show you like all these particular integrations. Job is task. That's it. Not a script file. Job is something like you can say internally it's a script, but you can see it through your GUI. Yep, you can see it GUI, but the GUI is going to be run as a script in the backend.
What does it open? What is the user?
Yep, I'll tell you. Like that's the reason. First, I'll show you like how this installation works. Then, if I show you practically, it makes more sense. What is a job in the sense? So, for time being, job is nothing but a task what you are going to do. Like I told you, right? So, your unit testing is one job. Acceptance testing is one job. So here, what is the command which I am doing here? Yes, this is one job for me. Let's say Nexus. Yes, this is one job for me. Yes, this can be like one particular job for me. But there, I'm not going to say MVN package, right? I mean, like I have all the tools configured over there. I'll simply say package. So whenever there is a change in code, package is going to be done automatically. I'm not going to intervene again. Yep, we need to have some for Nexus for each and every tool. We need to have plugins. So that's what I'll show you. Like Jenkins without plugins is just a dashboard. That's it. It does not have any functionality. Yes, we need plugins. Plugins is what the future of Jenkins is actually. All your features, I mean like your extra features, you get it from your plugins. So plugins, Jenkins uses something called like Groovy scripting. Anyone heard of Groovy? Groovy is another language actually. Jenkins uses that Groovy scripting to work in the backend. So all your plugins, everything is going to be built on Java and Groovy script based. I mean, like it's more like your Java based code. Now, if you say a sample Groovy, right? It came around in 2004. Yep. You see, is there any difference between Java and Groovy? As much, it's same, right? So basically, these are the scripts which are going to run in your backend. I mean, like you don't need something like system dot out dot something like that. And instead of you're just lighting but simple things. That's how Groovy works. It's more of Java-based technology again. Right? By using these particular things, we are going to write the scripts for your plugins. I mean, like you don't need to worry about Groovy actually. People who develop plugins, right? They need to have the idea of this Groovy. I'll show you like how you can work with this Groovy as well, right? So generally, you see like all your same thing like what you are going with your Java, like you got numbers, lists, methods, loops, operations, everything which you got over there. But for just for like understanding purpose, I'm just saying like how Jenkins works in the backend. Jenkins works in the backend by using Groovy actually, Groovy and Java, both the things. All your development of Jenkins was done through Java, but whereas all your plugins are integrated with Groovy. Right?
Can
Okay.
you work with web-based application?
Sorry.
We can only deploy on web-based application.
Nope, anything you want. It's like not only Java, you can use .NET, you can use the Node-based applications, you can use Python-based applications, anything you want. It's just a process where you are going to integrate it continuously. So what is the meaning of continuous integration? Like I told you, checking your shared repository every time for changes. Whenever there is a change, you should build that in your build environment. So either it's any based off application, you can do the same thing. Why? Because Java is sorry, Jenkins is Java based, right? Java is again cross-platform. You can do the same process for Windows, Unix based, Solaris based, any machine you want. That's the reason why we choose Jenkins actually. Right. Now let's see how we can go and work with the Jenkins, right? So Jenkins again, you need good amount of machines to work with Jenkins back. So I should have something. Okay, for time being, I'll set up that 8 GB machine because the process will be very fast. If not, again it would slow down your machines and it will do all these ruckus. Right. So let's say this is my Jenkins instance. Right. If I go with 4 GB for initial classes, Fine. For initial, I'll just keep it 3.75 GB. When I'm integrating all the tools, I'll increase the length for this because it's going to be very costly if I go for 8 GB. Right, I'm going with my CentOS 7 and say HTTPS. I'll give the keys. PI.ssh underscore RC dot. And I'm copying this public key. CentOS 7 Jenkins. So when you're working with Jenkins, right, again you need to understand where that particular. So by default, Jenkins runs on the port number 8080. So this is basically your web-based application. That's the reason it goes and runs with your. So there are two ways of installing Jenkins. One simple way is like you can directly go and do something called a WAR file installation. You'll have WAR file. You can directly go and keep it on your Tomcat server done. That's very simple way of doing things. But in real-time production level, we'll use something like yum-based installation again. I mean, like we need to get that repository package from your Jenkins. Then you need to set up that under your yum.repos.d. Then we are going with the same installation like we did. So WAR file, you can simply do it by yourself. I mean, like because you already have understanding of how to install the Tomcat, right? As simple as that. Just you install the Tomcat. The next thing you only need to do is like go to official Jenkins. Right, and it says the same thing, the leading open source automation server. Jenkins provides hundreds of plugins. Now you see on the home page itself, it says it provides hundreds of plugins for building, deploying, and automating any particular project you want. So this is the same process we are going to do it here as well. And so there is something called like Blue Ocean, which recently got introduced here. So it's not like mandatory that you can do that. I'll show you like how this thing works as well. Right. So I'll just yes, it's completely GUI. I mean, like Blue Ocean is something which is somewhat good looking than your older versions. I mean, like without this Blue Ocean, right? It looks somewhat different. I'll show you like what's the difference between these two particular things. Right. I mean, like if you are going with this Blue Ocean, we need to write some scripts for that actually. Groovy based scripts again. So if you want to go with this thing, you need to have something like groovy knowledge as well. I mean, like I'll show you like the basic, like how you can do that. But most of the things we will do with our older version, like how we did it. Right? And I'll just say like download. Now you see you got two things, right? You got your WAR file. You can take this WAR file and you can directly go and deploy it on your Tomcat server. All you need is like just download that WAR file. You have that WAR file. Just go to your Tomcat, say browse, choose this WAR file, upload. That's it. Done. And once you click in your particular Jenkins on your what you say Tomcat page, right? It will automatically redirect you to the setup page. The same thing will be without using WAR file. Right? Let's see how we can go and set up the same thing without WAR file as well. Right. First, let's me log in into the machine. Yeah. So I got this machine. Copy it up. Go here and I'll say SSH in this particular ID. Right. So I have this particular thing set up, right? So what is the first thing which I need whenever I want to run Jenkins? It's a Java based application, right? So yum -y install Java -1.8.0. So I'll set up all the prerequisites. So I need Java, I need Maven, Jenkins. So for time being, these three are good enough, right? I mean, like fetching the project and building the project. And from this, And at the time of integration, you need to have the all the tools as well. I mean, like Nexus, Tomcat, Sonar Cube, all this we need to. At that time, you need a good machine, something like at least 8 GB with 2 CPU RAM. Git and GitHub. Now let's say Git is your VCS, right? GitHub is your SCM. So what's the difference between VCS and SCM? We talked, right? Version control system is your client. Your GitHub is your server. Am I going to have multiple servers? No, right? One GitHub. But whereas my client's going to be multiple. So each developer will have his own version of client, which is Git. That's the reason why I install Git, you install Git, this person install Git, some other person install Git. But whereas everyone is pushing to the same server, that is your SCM, GitHub, client server architecture simply. Right? Basically, by using Git, we are giving some versioning. Right? You are giving some versioning, I am giving some versioning, and other person is giving some versioning. But all these versions are at the end of the day, they are going to store under your SCM. Right? Okay. So Java is done. Let me install level. Yep, and let me install Git. And install Maven. So for time being, these are good enough for me. So everything is there, right? If I say Java, yes, I have it. If I say Java C, yes, I have it. If I say Git, if it's there, MVN hyphen version. Yes, is there. Everything is good and there with me. So all my prerequisites are done. Now I need to get the repository package for my Jenkins, right? I'll say, if not, I'll simply say I'll go to Google. I'll say Jenkins yum repo, right? And say, I told you, right? Always go for your official package first, right? And if you see here, yep, you'll get some particular information here. Yep. To use the repository, go with the same thing like what we did, right? So I'm downloading that to my particular Jenkins repo. If you see etc yum.repos.d jenkins.repo, and it is going to get the particular information from this file, right? Jenkins.repo, right? So let me decrease the font size. So once I do that, then I need to import some keys. I mean, like for this particular repository. Once that is done, I'll simply say Jenkins. That's all I need to do. Right. So before that, if you see here, now you see I got something called like just Red Hat here. So what Red Hat does means it is going to get the latest version. If it will not look if it's stable or unstable, it will do. I mean, it can be alpha release or beta release. It will just direct the latest one. Exactly. That's the reason why you need to say something like Red Hat hyphen stable. That is going to get the stable version which is available over there. Either it's 2.6, 2.7, 2.8, we are not sure. But whatever the stable version which is there, it's going to get that. Right? So what I'll do is like, I'll just copy up this. I think I'm not sure if wget is not installed. Right? Sudo yum hyphen y install wget yum hyphen y install net hyphen tools. Yeah. So the two things are there. Now I'll say, yep. So it says sudo wget. So I downloaded that Red Hat version, but I don't need this one, right? So what I'll do is like, let me take this away. Okay. Great. Implemented it over there, right? rm-rf slash etc yum.repos.d. I got Jenkins repo. right? I remove that particular thing. I'll go with the this one, but here I'll say red hat hyphen stable, right? This is going to get the latest stable for me. I mean, like whenever you're setting that up under your production process, right? Always go for the stable version, not for the direct alpha or beta release, right? Once you do that, now I should be able to get the latest stable version right now. Got it? Understood, right? What I'm trying to. Just like I went there and I download the latest stable version. Right? And the next step I need to do is like I need to import the keys for that, right? I'll just say RPM import and this particular keys. So I just copied it and I went the same thing. So it imported the key for me. Without this, it will not work. Oh no, this is like basically just like it will import the keys from there. So there would be something like GPG check enabled that will download that particular thing and it will import it. That's it. Right? And once that is done, I'll simply say yum install Jenkins. Right? If not, I'll simply say sudo yum hyphen by install Jenkins. Right? Once I do that, yep, it's fetching all the information. Yep, it says, and you see it installed 2.7.3. Right, and if I go and check Jenkins, yep. CloudBees is also one of the important sites which you can refer for all the latest information for Jenkins. So this is also one of the. So actually Jenkins earlier it was there with what you say something called like Hudson. We used to have something called like Hudson, which is same, nothing but Jenkins, right? Now what happened is like after the complete Java was taken up by Oracle, right? Yep. So Oracle is what you can say is like paid version of your Jenkins, which is called Hudson, right? If I say Hudson again, that's what I want to show you. Yep. It says Hudson is a continuous integration container and it runs on Tomcat slash fish, let's say. Now you can see that, yep, it's your Oracle based thing. Let me maximize. Yep, it is completely owned by your Oracle. This is a paid version. I mean, like actually the same thing. I mean, like when it was there in your Sun Microsystems, right? When Java was there in Sun Microsystems, that is when generally Jenkins came into the picture. Actually, the name was Hudson, but when Oracle acquired Sun Microsystem, so what happened is like they went the same thing, Hudson, but the person who developed this one, his name is something like Komawakashi something, some Japanese guy. Let's say what is his name? I forgot his name actually. So there is one person actually called Kaushike something. Yep, Kaushike Kawagashi. This is the person who came up with the open source and the name called Jenkins. After Oracle acquired that with the Hudson name, so he came up with a new thing called this one. What do you say? Jenkins. So this is the person who actually developed it. But it was developed when it was there in the Sun Microsystems. That is the reason. So Oracle went with the paid version called your Hudson. That's the difference. Right? Right. So once this particular thing is done. Yep, in open source we completely use Jenkins. Jenkins is you have every particular thing which is there in Hudson with the Jenkins as well. More than Hudson, everyone uses Jenkins because it's largely open community, right? You get all the particular problems which are there, everything solved when yes. All right. Now let's say I have done this, right? Now I need to go and start my particular Jenkins server, right? I'll simply say sudo systemctl start Jenkins.
We don't have that thing.
No, that's the reason why we went with this particular repository because it's like completely right? Now if I say enable, so I am going to start it on system startup, right? Now if I say,
We don't have start for me.
oh no, Maven is not a server, right? Yeah, servers we need to definitely go. If it's a service, you need to say it. Stormcat is a service. SonarQube, MySQL, something like Apache, all this. But whereas Maven is just built to. That's it. Right now, if I say netstat hyphen ntp, yes, it is listening on port number 8080. So I need to fetch the IP address of this. We need to, yeah, we need to install. Yeah, just like that package name and say install Jenkins. That's it. Right, I copied this particular thing and I went the IP address and the port number 8080. So what it does means exactly. So everything what we were there, but we'll write some tasks over here, how to define them. Right? And you see how you can unlock your Jenkins. So it says the initial password would be stored here. Right? I'll just copy this location. I'll go back to my this thing and I'll say sudo and the particular thing. So this is my password, right? Just copy it up. Sorry? No. Yes, for initial password. Whenever you want to go for first time, that's the password. It's a temporary password. Once you log in, you need to reset the password. Right? I'll show you how it's done actually. Now it says the initial admin password, right? I'm giving that initial admin password and I'll say continue. Now you see Jenkins by default it installs all the most commonly used plugins, something like GitHub based plugin, right? You see it says install the suggested plugins. It says install plugins the Jenkins community finds most useful, right? I'll go with the same option and you see it's installing all the plugins like folder plugins, pipeline plugin, Git plugin, LDAP plugin, right? Email plugins. You got something called like Gradle plugin, right? Your Ant plugin, Subversion, Git, SSH slaves. So what are the things which we generally use on daily basis? Yep. And it says create your first admin user. Now let me say I'll say something like I'll say some administrator and I'll give some email ID and I'll say save and finish. It says Jenkins is ready. Your Jenkins setup is complete. And you'll simply say start using Jenkins. That's it. Now this is the basic Jenkins which you get. You don't have any functionality with here right now. So whenever you want to get the functionality, you need to go with the plugins. So whenever it comes to Jenkins, one important thing you need to understand is so plugin setup. I mean like installation and plugin configuration. This is very important when you do anything related to your
Only these tools work on plugins or all the tools they also work on plugins.
everything is plugin based. Everything is plugin based in Jenkins. You want to set up something, you'll go with the plugins. Everything. Now let's say you are not using Git. You are using something like SVN. You need to work with the SVN plugin. Let's say you are using something like Mercurial or something like a TFS. Right? You need to go with these particular plugins. Now let's say if not, let's say you are going with Tomcat like I mentioned, right? You need to download the Tomcat plugin. Let's say you want to work with some other machines, third party machines, then you need to go with the SSH plugins. Like I'll show you like all these particular things which we are going to do. Right? And now you see these particular things and let's say If you say VM slash etc password file, if I go to the bottom of the file, and you can see I have the Jenkins user, isn't it? I have a Jenkins user, and it says it's an automation server, and the default home is varlib Jenkins. And you see that by default is having bin false. What's the meaning of bin false? So what is the meaning of bin bash and bin false or bin no login?
It will ask password.
Uh, I mean, like there is no bash for him. I mean, like there is no shell. No shell in the sense he cannot log in and cannot do any task, right? So whenever you are having something like a bash, it means you can log in and do some task. If you don't have something like no login or false, it means you are not having any access to that shell. I mean, like you cannot do any task by logging there. So yes, it's a system user, simply system user. But we are going to override the functionality of this Jenkins because in our, I mean, like when you are setting up Jenkins on production level, you will not work with one machine, really speaking. So how it might work is like something like this.
Once we install everything, share the Jenkins user everything.
Yep, the first user we need to create by yourself. So once you give that initial password, right, it will says create the admin user, create first admin user. You can give the username credentials and you can start.
Initially, even the username password.
Yeah, that is administrator.
Administrator.
Yes, exactly.
But we are it is automatic Jenkins user.
Yep, this one. I mean, like this is for the service, Jenkins service. It's running, right? Whenever I say systems, it will start Jenkins.
Once you can start the Jenkins service, automatically this Jenkins user create
No, no. Once you install it, Jenkins user will be created.
when it is work, we cannot install it in Jenkins, right?
No, no, no. Just remember, I mean, like forget about this thing. I will tell you about this when time comes. Actually, I'll tell you. Maybe this scenario.
So what is happening? I am having it.
This is my master server, right? Now I have set up Jenkins in this machine, right? So what I told in my Jenkins, what is the main reason I'm using? I want to do some tasks. Tasks means some jobs, right? So I want to do compilation, test, right? Deploy to different things. But is it going to be in one system in real time? No, right? So generally, if you do everything in one system, what happens? This system will be get huge burden, right? So what's the problem? I mean, like you're not going to have multiples of what you say Jenkins servers here. You are going to have one server for your entire application, and this is going to be like a administration task, right? So you will define the jobs here, and then you will define your task here, but the tasks they run on some other systems, right? Now let's say whenever I was doing MBA, compile, deploy, everything, right? You can see that it was becoming very, very slow, isn't it? Now, in real time, also the same thing happens. If you are having hundreds of projects which are building simultaneously, this would crash instantly, right? So, we will go with something called master and slave configuration.
We can assign it to someone.
Exactly. So, in master, I'm only doing my administrative task, defining jobs like this. But whereas running all the things, I'm going to do it on my slaves. So what I am saying, what is my master yet? Jenkins is my master, right? This is the user. But if this user wants to run the jobs on some other machines, this user needs to log in there, right?
Those are also servers.
Yep, those are the servers. Now this Jenkins user should have access to these machines. Now he should log in there, right? If there is no bin access, how can he go and do all the tasks over there? That's the reason why we will give him some access. Right? Then I am going inside, I'll generate my SSH keys. Exactly. Then I connect to each and every machine. Then I define your task. So task 1 should run by Linux machine 1. Task 2 should run on this machine. Task 3 should run on this machine. Tasks means projects. So project 1 should run on this machine, project 2 should run on this machine, project 3 should run on this testing machine. So this is generally how to set up the data. But whereas general practice is when you choose the single machine and you can do that, but I'll show you that particular thing as well, how you can do the master and slave configuration. There is something called a node concept. We'll talk about nodes and all these things, right? But for timing, that's the reason why we are going to change this thing to build to some particular task, right? So I'll just close it up, right? Now you see here you have some things here. Now, so all your particular Jenkins data, right? It is going to be there under manage Jenkins. So this is where you can completely manage all the Jenkins accounts and everything. Now, if you go here, you got a huge list here. Configure system, configure global security, configure credentials, tools, configuration, manage plugins, right? You got your system information, system log, statistics, Jenkins CLI, manage nodes. These are all the things which we would discuss, right? So here the important things we are going to discuss are configure system, which is very, very important. Then we'll discuss something about configure global security, right? Then we'll discuss configure credentials. Then we are going with something called like this is just like getting the configuration from the disk back again, reloading the configuration. You got manage plugins, how you can install plugins and everything, your system information, logs, right? So we'll discuss most of them with statistics. The script console is something which is generally used for troubleshooting diagnostics. We will write some scripts there, Groovy based. So here you need to also have some Groovy based knowledge if you are working on development process of the Jenkins. If you internally want to change the behavior of Jenkins, that's where this script console comes into the picture, where you need to have the Groovy based knowledge and everything. Right? So we'll discuss each one by one and we'll see how these things work. Right? So before that, we'll see like what is the meaning of build actually. I'll tell you like what is the meaning of job actually. Now it says welcome to Jenkins. Please create new jobs to get started. Right? I'll simply say create new job. And you see I got different kinds of projects here. Right? Yeah, sure. So we got something called like freestyle projects, right? Pipeline, external jobs. But most of this, you don't need to worry about much of them. The things which we are seeing is freestyle projects. So we are going to build multiple freestyle projects and we are going to connect with these particular things. And pipeline is something like I told you, right? So this is where you need to have the pipeline scripting knowledge. I mean like Groovy based knowledge. If you know Groovy scripting, you can do the same thing without GUI. That's what. If you know GUI, I mean like Groovy scripting. So you will write the Groovy script instead of going and doing it in a GUI base. I mean like you need to come to the GUI, but you'll not say create this job, create this job, create this job. Instead of that, you will be writing script for creating that job. That's the only difference. I'll show you like maybe some small examples how you can do that. But for that, you need to have very good understanding of Groovy if you want to work that. Then there is something like external jobs. Something like this. I want to run the jobs on other machines, right? So I'll show you like all these particular things, right? So for farming, I'll go with the freestyle project, right? Let's say this is something like my project 1, right? And I'll say, okay. Even 4 GB is somewhat small, right? And whenever you create a job and you see different sections here, right? First the project name, then you got your description. Any description you want to give, you can give here, right? Let's say this is a sample job to demonstrate OS version, right? Then you see Discord old wheels. I mean like I'll talk about all these things one by one. For timing, I'll just show you like what is the meaning of this particular job call, right? So this is my OS version, right? And you see source code management. Are you using Git and SVN? If you are using some other things, we need to get it as a plugin, right? Build triggers. So you want to build remotely or from other projects periodically or GitHub polling. I'll talk about all these things. For time being, I'll go to the build step and I'll say execute one small shell script, right? I'll simply say cat slash etc slash os release. So what this thing is going to do actually, it will tell me what is the version of my OS, right? Now I'll just apply and save it, right? Now you see I'm having that particular project called project one, and you can see here something called like build now. Now if you see, I'm starting one particular task. This is one job which will tell what is the version of my operating system, right? I'll click here. This is my console output, and what it says, it executed this particular command and it has given me the list of this. So did you understand what is the meaning of job? It means nothing but running some task, right? Clear? So that's the meaning of right now. We'll go and set up all the process which we did till now. Setting up your Maven, Git, everything we will orchestrate one by one into this process. Yep. 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 Let's say your job got failed. Now I'll go to configure. I'll go to my build section. Instead of OS release, I'll say OS release 1. But I'm not going to have that file, isn't it? I'll just say apply and save. And as you see, this is my first job. Now I'm running the second job. I got a red option, right? If I click this, it will show me the output. What it says? So basically it is giving me the console output, what is happening in the background. Sorry? Everything would be stored here. Just see. So you have something called like manage Jenkins. You have logs here, system logs. It will store all your Jenkins logs here. Yes, you can store it. I mean, like generally, this is not which we generally use. So when you are working with project-based things, right? All your logs would be present here actually. This console output. So whatever we did see here, right? So here you'll get all these logs, right? You can email them and do everything you want. I mean, like for timing, it's just this a normal script file. But when you run your Maven based, right? Your logs will be very huge. Thus, yes, you can get everything you want. I'll show you like how you are going to take that logs and you're going to email them everything. Right? So for timing, you understood it. What is the meaning of a job? Simply means like I'm just showing like a sample particular job. And this task, any task which you are doing in your system, that can be done with Jenkins. That's what I'm trying to say. Yep. But this you can do with the command line as well. But if you go with the command line again, there is some problem. Again, you need to do something like MVN and all this. But instead of that, we are going with your plugin based things. I'll show you like how you can work with the plugins as well. So Jenkins is mostly like how you are maintaining that plugin work according to the task which you are assigned to. Using your plugins efficiently, what Jenkins is all about, achieving the tasks. So we'll talk about all these sections. We need to talk about each and every section here. So we need to see like what is the meaning of SCM, build triggers, build environments, post build actions. If you see post build actions, email notifications, build other facts, right? You got different delete workspace once the build is done. You got need to speak some particular things about all these tasks. We'll see each one by one, like how these things go on, right? For timing, just like we have set up the Jenkins, we have seen like what is the use case of Jenkins and what is the meaning of sample task or job means. From tomorrow, we'll go with the real approach, like what we did with Maven, Git, and everything. Right? It reduces operations work actually. Developer, what he does generally, his only work is like pushing to the GitHub. That's it. Yes, I mean like it's a development process. I mean like developer, I told you right. We got multiple developers who has their own code, but all the code is generally there in your GitHub. That is where your actual operations start, right? I mean like building the code and everything. Yep. Developer will never compress the log files. No, they are better about them. Yeah. No, they are configured in Jenkins. Mhm. Jenkins only integrates with your SCM. That's the reason why the first thing you called is SCM.
So, for example, that for developer from that quality,
Yeah.
so you have to, for example, add the quality.
Yeah.
So now we can able to compare it.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm trying.
Now, every time I want to compare the noise, I have to manually or automatically control.
Not like that. So this particular tool is where you set up the development process. So what is the meaning of development process? You are going to do the build, right? Then you are going to do the release. Then you are going to do the deployment, right? This is what your development process is actually. This thing we are going to do it automatically. Yep.
Now I have put the code to
GitHub. Yep.
okay. So every time if I want to compress the I have to manually run this.
No. Automatically. That's what automatically I'm saying, right? So whenever there is a change, automatically it will run by itself. I'll not. Yes, it's like cron job. Not cron job. Cron job is something like it runs on specified intervals. Huh. It's like similar to cron job, but yep, you can schedule it. But scheduling is not the correct word. Yes, you can schedule it, but if it's scheduled right, let's say there are already 10 changes which are there. Now it would be a problem for me, isn't it? Whenever there is a change, automatically it should run. I mean, like there should be some trigger over there. Based upon that event, the job should run. You can schedule it, no problem. Yes, I'll show you both the cases how you can schedule it as well as how to build this particular job on an event. What is that event? Event. So, what is the event? Change in the source code. Event, EVENT. Whenever there is an event occurring, your build should start. Exactly. Yep. అలా కూడా పెట్టుకోవచ్చు అదేమో పోలింగ్ ఎస్సిఎం పోలింగ్ అని ఉంటుంది ఇంకొకటి 2 ఆప్షన్స్ మనం జనరల్గా అది డెవలప్మెంట్ ప్రాక్టీస్ అది మీ ఆర్గనైజేషన్ ఎలా సెట్ చేస్తామో దాన్ని బట్టి ఉంటుంది సో మనం 2 ఆప్షన్స్ చూస్తాం ఒకటి ఎస్సిఎం పోలింగ్ అని ఉంటుంది ఐ మీన్ లైక్ దెర్ ఆర్ 20 కమిట్స్ ఆ రోజు అయ్యాయి సో మార్నింగ్ 10 AM to 3 PM రైట్ ఈ స్పెసిఫిక్ టైంలో దేర్ వేర్ లైక్ 10 కమిట్స్ right you can set up the poll in such a way that after 4 PM your build starts for 10 commits if not let's say 10 AM ఒక కమిట్ జరిగింది బిల్డ్ అయిపోయింది లెట్స్ సే 2 PM ఒక కమిట్ జరిగింది బిల్డ్ అయిపోతుంది సైమల్టేనియస్లీ సో వెన్ ఎవర్ దేర్ ఇస్ ఎ చేంజ్ సో దిస్ ఈస్ కాల్డ్ యువర్ గిట్హబ్ ట్రిగర్ సో ఎప్పుడైతే గిట్హబ్లోకి పుష్ చేసామో కమిట్ చేసామో అప్పుడు యూ కెన్ స్టార్ట్ building that application. If not, at specified time of interval. Every day at 4 PM, a build should happen. Either if there are changes or there are no changes. If not, if there are only changes, then build should be started. Anything you want, yes, you can configure both the things. Yes. So we'll see that one by one. I'm thinking like, yep, sure, we'll see. If it's possible, we can take on Saturday. Most probably yes. Can try it up to try to see like so one thing we need to see is like master and slave configuration అనుకున్నాను yep so maybe like ఈ రోజు కొంచెం కష్టం రేపు నుంచి will start it up no problem yeah sure I mean like what we can do is like so 3:30 or 500 3:30 daily half an hour will complete like the lagging classes will take half an hour extra for next 4 days so that we can complete faster. Right? Yeah, sure, fine. We'll take up like daily half an hour extra so that we can complete this 1.5 to 2 hours class, these particular things.